Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a busy day. I hope you found it a good day. We are delighted to welcome this afternoon the Prime Minister to give a closing comment to the 2018 U.S. Poland Business Summit. I would like to also just remind everyone that since he took office as Deputy Prime Minister and since as Prime Minister, he has been generous with his time to meet with investors, to talk about issues of importance that are critical to the economy and providing prosperity and jobs here in Poland, as well as strengthening the U.S.-Poland relationship across a range of issues. And to the Prime Minister, I would just like to mention that in putting this event together today, I think that people have found to be interesting. We've had outstanding cooperation from the Ministry of Entrepreneurship and Technology, from the Ministry of Development, from the Ministry of Finance, as well as from PAI. So we compliment your team for helping us put all this together, of course, along with our friends at the U.S. Poland Business Council. So it's been a joint effort to do this, but I guess that's how we get things done, both in business and in government. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is a tremendous pleasure to welcome for a closing statement at this summit the Prime Minister of the Republic of Poland, Mateusz Morawiecki.
Well, having to say closing comments, closing remarks, not knowing what was before is a little bit risky, but I'll try anyhow. Well, I thank you very much first for inviting me to this meeting. I see that year after year we have more and more investors, more and more entrepreneurs and business people from the US and from Poland, and I'm very happy with this, I have to tell you. That's my first closing comment. Second would be a couple of statements, couple of sentences on the situation in Poland, in particular economic and business-related environment and situation. Well, Poland is growing by the day, you may say, and our economic development, our GDP growth is one of the strongest in Europe, and actually if you take into account 10 the biggest economies in the EU, our growth is the strongest. It's 4.5% and growing stronger and stronger one quarter after another. And what is very important for me, and it's I think a good information for business people, for business community, that this growth is very well balanced. It's balanced at many different fronts. First, it's balanced because in terms of exports and imports, we are pretty well balanced. Exports are growing a little bit more strongly than imports, but we do not have issues like some countries which are in strong trade deficits, but also we are not kind of target for some free trade and fair trade policy makers, and this is why we try to actually develop different sectors as much balanced way as possible. Now maybe a little bit of digression, which I was going to say in a different context, but it now fits into this part of my closing comments. This is natural gas and natural gas imports from the US. We try to develop a kind of central CEE hub for natural gas. Today, all the Central Europe is completely imbalanced vis-à-vis Gazprom and Russia. So with the help of the United States and the shale gas revolution, we would like to have a win-win situation for the EU, for Poland, and for the United States of America. In particular, when you see one figure, which is in 170 billion cubic meters of gas, it's a shortage of a demand for gas from outside of the European Union. So year after year, the European Union needs to import 170 billion cubic meters of gas. This is exactly a capacity of our external LNG terminals at the rim of the European Union. And this is exactly the figure which we import from Gazprom, from Russia. And this is exactly the same figure which is now the United States has a capacity to export to all other countries. So here it's quite visible and quite clear how Russian interests and American interests and the European interests are not very well aligned, but we would like to diversify, and this is why we invite the American gas suppliers, and why we present our policy and our approach as being a central hub for American gas to this part of Europe. So we have a very well-balanced economy. Our public debt is in decline. Our budget deficit is lower and lower year after year. The reason for those two, and at the same time being able to spend more on social expenditure, is that we were very successful in closing our VAT gap. I'm sure even if there is no VAT tax in America, you know very well how important VAT is for Europe. This is the most important source of revenues for Poland. And our gap was the highest in the European Union. Now we are in the middle of the ranking, and we are heading towards the good side of the ranking. So with this, we brought $15 billion more of revenues to our budget. This is why we were able to reduce our budget deficit. We were able to reduce our public debt. So we are well balanced at this end as well. And also, given Brexit, more and more businesses from the UK, from London, are moving into Poland, and Poland is becoming the most important ally for the United States in the European Union, given Brexit. But also, one comment with regard to Brexit, most of us regret that this is going to happen, but at the same time we work on a kind of soft Brexit. We try to keep the United Kingdom as close to the European Union as possible, and in particular we would like to emphasize the political and defense dimension, which are going to be more and more important with the UK leaving leaving the EU. So, in terms of the economic situation, macroeconomic and microeconomic situation, we are pretty well balanced. Our banking sector is very well capitalized. We try to develop all sorts of financial markets in Poland. I had a meeting with the chairman and founder of Alinda just before our meeting here, one of the biggest infrastructure investment funds. We encourage long-term, not only long-term, but in particular long-term investors to invest in Poland. And also we try to develop capital markets as quickly, as strongly as we can. Poland, and actually the rest of Europe equally, is over-dependent on financing through the banking sector, and underdeveloped in terms of capital markets and other parts of financial markets. So we are very open to strategically develop some parts of capital markets, global banking and markets, investment funds, pension funds, long-term investors. In terms of the EU, we believe that we are a very strong part of member state of the EU. We are still not yet there in terms of dealing with the root causes of the financial crisis, which broke out after the Lehman collapse. The monetary policy is the main is the critical factor to ease the tensions and to keep up, to pump fuel to the economy, so to say. But having said that, we believe that we are not dependent on the monetary policy as the rest of the Europe is, which is another sign of indicating that our economic growth is maybe more real and not so much based on monetary policy, not so much based on monetary easing, on purchases of by the central bank, by the European Central Bank, of different sorts of assets, including government bonds and corporate bonds. Our central bank is not doing this at all, so we still have very conservative monetary policy. So conservative monetary policy, conservative fiscal policy, stable business environment, strong membership in the European Union, and pretty well balanced in terms of sectoral structure and export-import related dimension. This leads me to a real closing comment that it's a very good place to invest, to be with us, and the stronger and stronger alliance between Poland and the United States makes me not only happy, very happy, but also I believe that this is a clear sign of a new wave of investment from the United States, which is most likely going to come to Poland over the next couple of years. We believe that there will be a growing number of American troops in Poland. There is already a strong presence of American troops in Poland. We are very happy with this. We are enhancing our cooperation in the area of defense expenditures. Poland is one of the very few countries which spends more than 2 percentage points on defense expenditures, and we have plans to increase it to 2.5%. So all those ingredients lead me to a final conclusion that I believe that over the next couple of years we will have a very strong positive environment, economic environment in the world, and in Poland we will be really a very good place for investment and for doing more business, hopefully with all of you here. And I hope my people like Tad Kościński, Jadwiga, in different ministries are very open to all your needs. We'll be even more open, and we will be very, very happy to have you here for next decades. I'm not mentioning about fantastic Polish-American history, Kościuszko, Pulaski, all of this, which is so often mentioned these days. I'm very happy, Mr. Ambassador, for 100 years anniversary of Polish-American diplomatic relationships this year. But I really believe that the true anchor is in business, and the more business interconnectivity between Poland and the United States, the better for both countries. Thank you very much.